We all know Minecraft, the game, the challenge worlds, the works of art, the first dirt hut. But what about Minecraft, the world? We have so much fiction, so many stories in this place, but never as a place. It's always Minecraft, the game. But today I want to show you Minecraft, the world. Imagine, if you will, if only for a second, you're a weary traveler and you happen upon a handmade house. Inside this house is a table, and on that table is a book. Written on that book are the words, "Private journal, do not read, unless I'm dead." This, dear viewers, is that book. Hi, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead. I think. Can't see any reason I wouldn't have this on me anyways. I think it has infinite pages on it. Also, I've always wanted to start a book like that. Or maybe you're a thief and you've taken this book from me. In which case, give it back. It's mine, and I'm sure I'll have put a lot of memories and notes in here. Regardless, I haven't actually seen an art person like me, so there's probably a moot point. I'm just talking to myself. I don't really know why I'm writing this. I just need to write it all down. Might as well start from the top, I suppose. Day 1. I woke up stumbling forward, nearly right off a cliff into certain death. Woke up from what, you might ask? Well, okay, maybe you wouldn't. Presumably you woke up the same as I did, but let's assume you didn't. Good question. I don't rightly know. What I do know is that this is where my life started. Teetering over a cliff face with its sharp wind biting my face. Falling back onto soft grass, I found myself trapped. Sharp drop-offs to the front and back and mountain peaks to either side. My only respite was a small flat of grass sat right between all that, no more than 5 blocks across any side, and a small cave to my left. As you can imagine, I was quite panicked, and I don't know about anyone else, but I personally don't enjoy starting a day, or life, I suppose, with a near-death experience. I hurried into the small cave. It was tiny, more of a hole passing through one of the peaks, really. But the closed walls gave me comfort and shelter from the risk of death by falling everywhere else presented. Little did I know at the time, shelter was one of the 2 things that would now be essential if I wanted to survive. I'll get to the second essential thing later, but I was cherishing those moments away from the chilling winds howling above death. Even without realizing how important the shelter would be. I think the better part of the day passed while I sat in that cave. Eventually, I found the courage to go and truly take in my surroundings and situation. To the south, or no, what was it? The north? No, yeah, it was to the north. The cliff face stretched across my view until it dropped off to a swamp far below me in the distance. There was a small outcrop of stone a bit below me, also to the north side, with a waterfall. A bit of lava fell from the cliffs across the gaping chasm. To the south was the ocean, bright and blue and stretching all to the horizon. A couple trees poked their way up from the slope with canopies close enough to reach out and touch them. I crawled over to the patch of grass and laid down. Went to pick at the grass next to me, but lo and behold, imagine my surprise when it shattered. Like glass. Reached towards another clump poking out of the ground, only to find it too exploded in a small shower of plant material. Strange enough, but then on my third go at it, to my amazement, I see a clump of seeds pop out. Glad for a distraction, I picked up the seeds and began to fiddle with them. There were 6 or so seeds, and despite my best efforts, I couldn't really break them apart. I tried only grabbing one, they all just floated around it. And strange enough, but then I went to find somewhere to put it, a pocket or something, and found a belt across my waist with 9 pouches across it. Turns out I was wearing clothes, thank goodness, but had no additional pockets other than the belt. I had nothing to really do with the seeds. I slid them into one of the pouches where, get this, it flattened completely too deep. Alright, to anyone who's been around, this probably isn't much of a surprise, but how strange it was to me back then. Taking a full inventory of what I had to get down from this rock, I found goggles on my head and a small bag on my back. And it was empty. Great. I was back to Cube 1. But that grass gave me an idea. Perhaps other plants may be of more use. I began examining the treetop canopies I had spotted earlier. I reached out, and though it wasn't as instantaneous as the grass, sure enough, the leaves exploded, leaving me and nothing. Disappointment sank in for a moment before I remembered how the grass took multiple tries to get something out of. So I began swinging at all the leaves in reach. Not a single one dropped anything. Not a one. So that was it. I was trapped. I would sit there and slowly starve. I sat in the grass staring at those leaves just out of reach for quite a while. Nope, I was not having that. I got as close to the edge as I safely could and reached as far as I could. Now, imagine my surprise when half a meter away, my fist collided with the leaves. Yeah, okay, again, you probably know about the super reach by now if you're reading this, but shut up. I'm writing this for myself anyways. Anyways, my new discovery was not in vain. Out of the leaves, despite no wood being in the mall, fell a stick. Right to the edge of the cliff. You see, on the south side, there was a small area where the land got very steep, but not quite a drop-off yet. But steep enough I worry about sliding right off and into the drop at the end. And that stick was right on the edge of that drop. Just my luck. Now, of course, a stick isn't very useful by itself, but you gotta remember, I had to take any when I got at that point. Any tool might serve some purpose in getting me down from this rock, and that stick was no exception. And so that's how I found myself, shuffling down the slope, feeling the earth give way under my boots quite more than I was comfortable with. But man, I needed that stick. There were safer options, other leaves I hadn't gone for yet over safer areas, but that wasn't on my mind then. I needed that stick and I was gonna get it. So I shuffled down, reached out, too far away. I shuffled down further still, almost there, a little further. My feet were halfway off the drop-off. But I got it. I raced back up the slope, nearly sliding back down with my new stick multiple times on the way up. I retreated back into the safety of my cave with my new tool, collapsing on the floor and catching my breath before realizing I had no use for the stick. What was I planning on doing? Going around whacking stuff? I did do that to the stone floor for quite a time, well, coming up with excuses not to leap to the cave, no results obviously. I decided my priority would be fire. It was gonna be night soon enough, and a fire would at least help me keep warm. And for fire, I would need at least one more stick. So, back to punching leaves I went, to no avail. I got nothing. But nada, zilch, null. Okay, I'm gonna stop listening to words that mean zero now, but you get the point. Unless a lightning strike graced the newly bare tree logs on that clear day, I had to look elsewhere for fire-making tools. Lucky for me, clearing the leaves away gave me access to another area on the west side. It was across another slope leading to a drop-off, but the slope was mild and long enough that I felt comfortable enough making my way over, because I saw a bountiful harvest. A forest dense enough to give me sticks for weeks. Okay, not really, it was maybe 6 trees tops, but that's what it felt like at the time. So I braved the cliff face, made my way past a waterfall. If I must be honest, I was afraid of it washing me off the cliff, which seems so silly now. And found myself faced with another steep cliff, this one in the up direction. It was technically climbable, but it was steep. Not to mention it was a 1 block width, so slipping off meant falling into the chasm and likely facing certain doom. But I needed that wood. So I took a step, then another, then turned around and went back to the cave. Another stick was not worth that. I didn't even know if I could actually make the fire. In theory, I knew it should be possible, but I'd certainly never done it before. And so I flopped myself down the cave, prodding the floor with my stick, telling myself I wouldn't need the fire for when night came. Darkness fell. The chilly wind howling above the chasm crept into my cave. I tried going to sleep, but you ever actually try to sleep on a stone floor of grass? It ain't good. So after maybe an hour of not sleep, I decided to poke my head outside the cave just for a quick look around. What I saw made me ecstatic, because just a ways off the North Chasm, on a pillar sticking out of the water, I saw people, other people who weren't there earlier. My sleep-deprived state, I thought whoever could get there must be able to come and go as they please, considering that perhaps these people were in the same situation as I. Regardless, fire was now back at the top of my priority list, as shouting across the chasm seemed to do nothing for them noticing me. So I went back to the west side, and crept behind the waterfall, and faced the steep slope once more. 1 foot after another, I told myself, slowly making my way up the slope. Just don't look down. 1 step, another. Ground crumbled beneath me and my foot slid right to the edge. But after a moment, I regained my footing and made it to the trees. I looked back to the eastern horizon. I swore I saw something while climbing, eyes in the distance glowing a yellowish white in the distant dark. But there was nothing there. Even the people I saw just a moment ago, gone. I sighed. Even if not tonight, I had a plan and a goal. I would get fire for their attention, so someone might just rescue me from this cliff. The forested area I'd climbed to was just as small as my starting area, if not thinner and more spread out across the cliff face, but the trees there were large and had many leaves. And just my luck, all I got were some floppy branches that A, were still alive and thus weren't going to be easy to burn, and B, floppy as a fish. Those were not going to do for a fire. But I found something far greater than sticks there. It was the last leaf block. I remember thinking to myself, this has to be the stick. It's gotta. If it doesn't, I'm screwed. And so I punched it. Yeah, a lot. Looking back, I was certainly getting my anger out in this block, but man, am I glad I did. I punched the leaf and then kept punching the leaf, well past the point where it had broken, in fact. And when I stopped, out of breath, red faced, and perhaps closer to tears I'd like to admit, I looked up. I had not only broken the leaves, but the entire block of wood behind it. And right there, sitting on the stump, was the log. In miniaturized form, too. I picked it up and was able to slide it right into one of my pouches. My wood problems were solved. I had to do a double take as a thought crossed my mind, but yep, tree just sat there, floating above the stump. Seems that it had managed to escape this foe that I've been facing all this time. You could say it didn't have to face the gravity of the situation. Not gonna apologize for that. Bad puns aside, I had done it. I had as much wood as I could ask for. Now I just needed to figure out how to start a fire, but that was the last thing on my mind at the time. I went to see if the people were there, and to my surprise, they were in my little cave, two of them. I almost fell down the slope to get back, but then I got a closer look at them. They were incredibly thin, and in some places looked as if you could poke a stick through them without resistance. To top it all off, their skin was a hard white substance. It looked almost as if their body had been compressed into an incredibly small space. Regardless, it gave me a moment of hesitation. I called out to them, "Hello?" I got their attention, and I regretted that soon after. As first came what I could only assume was a pet of some kind, and in the dark I couldn't tell if it was a reptile or a plant. Short and mottled green with no arms, it moved towards me, followed by the people. Stopped at the gap that separated us. Searing pain shot through my shoulder. I spotted something in one of the people's hands, a bow, and an arrow through my shoulder. Didn't take an expert to figure out what had happened. I turned and ran for what cover the barren trees still had left to give as another arrow whipped past my head and embedded itself in the dirt. I made a mental note. Okay, not friendly, got it, as I caught my breath. I was sure they would find me again any second now. But the sounds of the clicking receded. Didn't seem like they knew how to get over to me. I took a step back, not literally as they might kill me if I wasn't careful. But I paused. I saw the full moon rise into the sky as a firefly passed in front of my eyes. I saw a few more across the outcropping. I remember thinking to myself, this would be such a beautiful night in any other situation. That's the first time I heard it. The music. I heard the world speak to me for the first time that night as the moon looked down on me from right above. And it was comforting.